Greetings everybody, and thank you very much for joining me once again, because you all know how much I love to be here. I want to start by just wishing everybody, every woman or women out there, mothers, aunties, grandmothers, nanas, nanabar, happy Mother's Day to all caregivers out there. Happy Mother's Day also to the single fathers out there that are doing it on their own and having to be both mum and dad. The reason I'm sitting here with you guys today is, being Mother's Day, I thought that it would be a really good opportunity to address something that has saddened me for a really long time, and obviously not just me, because the messages that I get from people asking me to also address this particular issue is many. So it's clearly something that is touching the hearts of a lot of people, and that's with our what the government would like to call African domestic workers in the Middle East. But as said to you before, I call it as I see it, and they're not domestic workers. We're talking about slaves. So we are talking about a whole new level of slave trade, legal slave trade in 2020 in the Middle East. Yeah, those Gulf countries. We're looking at about 2.5 million African slaves. Okay, not domestic workers, domestic slaves, working within, or suffering, excuse me, not working in those Middle East countries in that Gulf region. What we've seen come out from there, and the videos, and everybody's seen the videos with these women, and it's not just women, it's men also, pleading for assistance and the suffering that's going on there. And this saddens me so much, because it's not something that somebody shouldn't have to be so desperate that they travel to these places, not just once. Some will go back a second time to these countries, despite what they've suffered, despite the level of suffering. Now, when you travel to places like Lebanon and Saudi and Bahrain, Qatar, places like that, those places don't have respect really for even their own women, let alone a black woman or a black man who has traveled there as a worker. Okay, so you're going to go to these places in the hopes of earning money and coming back home and supporting your family, your children, maybe even helping your husband take some of that load off. But you will go to these places and you will suffer. And what we are seeing is people go there and coming back and telling others that this is what is happening to us here, don't go. And we have this mentality, unfortunately, within ourselves, that we think that they're just telling us that because they don't want us to also go and have some level of success. But the fact of the matter is, what is happening to your women and men in these countries is so diabolically wrong, it needs to be abolished, and it's something that the government needs to step in to eradicate. You know, we've seen in 2014 the Kenyan government actually put a ban on processing of visas for the women to go and be these domestic workers in these Middle Eastern countries. Well, they've now lifted those bans, and they've poured a whole bunch of money into making legal agencies to then put these women, and I'm telling you, looking at between 350 and 400 women every month graduating from these courses, and that's just in Kenya, graduating through these courses that the government have set up to teach you how to go and be a domestic slave in the Middle East. My sisters and brothers, I'm telling you, there is nothing good for you in the Middle East. There is nothing good for you there. If you are lucky, out of all of those millions that will travel there, 1% of you will get something good. The rest of you are going there to suffer. The laws that Kenya have put in place through these agencies, now they are doing this in order to protect. That's what the government is telling you. We are going to protect those people who want to travel overseas to work. So if you go to these countries and you find you are suffering abuse, it is the responsibility of the agents to bring you back. However, immediately you land there, your passport is confiscated, your phone is confiscated, any documents and paperwork you have are confiscated, and you are automatically being put into slave-like circumstances and conditions. So unless you have your agent's or somebody's phone number written down on a small little piece of paper, scrunched up and hidden in the seam of your shirt, you won't have that number unless you've got it here. You're going to go to these places, and I'm pleading, I know the situation is tough, I know how desperate you must feel to put yourself at that level of risk to travel to these places. And that's why the government also needs to step in. If Kenya's government is prepared to lay out that kind of money to set up legal agencies and courses, why do they not pour that money into some kind of infrastructure to create jobs so that those men and women don't have to go and suffer? We are talking about rape. We are talking about beatings. For the women, the men will rape you. Their wives know that their husband is raping you, and then you will be beaten by the wife. Because in these countries, if you are a woman and you get raped, it is your fault. So the men will rape you, the women will beat you for allowing their husband to sleep with you, and it's just a systematical cycle. The agents will promise you big dollars. You are going to earn big money, 400, 500, money. You have to ask yourself, uncertificate, no experience, no experience, and who do you think is going to pay you that kind of money? The Middle East and Asia also. If you find yourself traveling to Asia, we're not just talking about domestic slavery, we're talking about prostitution, we're talking about sex slaves, that sex trade. That's what's going to happen to you when you go to these places. And it's also going to happen to you in the Middle East. There are instances there where they will buy you. They will pay their next door neighbour to take their domestic worker, slave, and they have parties. And you will be passed around like a drink from man to man to man to man. And if you refuse to allow him to rape you, they will kill you. Now, if you think that you're going to go to these places and you have your embassy and they will help you, your embassy is not going to help you. One of the biggest things that I have right now is my husband and I made a video. We wanted to prove that your embassies are not there to do anything for you. So we called them, trying to get somebody that would speak my husband's Ghanaian language of Twi. We couldn't get them. We called Lebanon. We called the Ghana embassy in Lebanon. There was a Lebanese girl working there who refused to give us to anybody. And my husband rang under the presence that he was a worker who was being held prisoner. They'd taken all of his documents, and he's being beaten, but he's managed to get a phone and he's calling his embassy for help. They refused to help him. They refused to let him speak to a Ghanaian, for one, and they also said that nothing illegal is taking place. So unless you escape and make your way to the embassy, we can't do anything for you. We still insisted on wanting to speak to a Ghanaian. So she said, oh, I have somebody here. This is my friend. She speaks Twi. And she handed the phone to somebody. My husband then explained to this woman what we were doing, that we were actually live and we were making a video to prove that the embassies are of no assistance to us. This lady then told us, I am not this woman's friend. I am a domestic slave. I have had my passport taken. They are beating me. They are treating me like this. I've managed to escape and I am in the embassy and they won't help me. Not only a week or two later did we hear that a Ghanaian woman in Lebanon was murdered. I have had this just horrible, overwhelming feeling of guilt because and this call that we were on with her, suddenly it just cut. It wasn't like okay, thank you, bye. It cut. Now, we had no way, we didn't even know this lady's name. We had no way of getting back in touch with her. I have no way of knowing if even what we did and her speaking to us that day caused something to happen for her. We don't know if it is that woman, but it's not a big stretch to say, hey, this is a possibility. But that is what is happening. They will kill you. And the men, you are not exempt from this. You are not exempt. When you travel to these Arabic, Middle Eastern, strong Islamic countries, homosexuality is right, and this is going to ruffle feathers, I know, but homosexuality is rife within the Middle East, and it is all very hidden, and it is all very taboo. But I am telling you now, black man, if you travel to the Middle East as a domestic worker, meaning a slave, the men there will rape you too. If you think you can swallow a couple of beatings just for the sake of getting some money to go home and support your family and start your life, if you're thinking you're strong enough to sustain that. Let me just do this. I can cop a beating or two so that I can start my life and set my family up. They will rape you too. You are not exempt from the atrocities that are going to happen to you when you get there. You have no assistance. Even you get small money and you will think, that's if they pay you, I might add. Because most of the big dollars they are talking about goes to the agent. It doesn't even go to your pocket. So what small cent you get, they will steal it back. You will be given a room the size of a wardrobe if you are lucky. You will not be permitted to have an 8-hour sleep. They will come and wake you up anytime, day, night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Make me a sandwich, clean that toilet, sweep that floor. My daughter messed her bed, go and deal with that. You are not free. You are not a worker, you are a slave. The situation is so hard home that some of these men and women who go and face these atrocities and actually are blessed enough to get home, go back thinking next time will be okay. Next time it will be better. It was just this time I got unlucky. I'm telling you, only 1% of you who travel there will have luck and get somebody that is going to treat you fairly. It is about time that the government steps in. We are already seeing Africa demolished by the Chinese. We've got the ex-colonial rule from the France still being left over, and all billions of African dollars are being sent out of Africa and into Europe. We've got the British colonial crap still left over with the English and the French education system and all of this stuff, that it's made the situation in Africa so desperate that your men and women would be prepared to risk their lives to travel to these countries to earn a couple of dollars. Nobody should have to take that risk. Nobody in any country on the planet of this earth should have to say, it's worth the risk of me being beaten, raped and killed to make some money so I can support my mum or my dad or my kids or my family. Nobody should have to take that risk. If they want domestic workers in Saudi, do you know how many millions of people live there? Why don't they hire their own people to come and be a nanny for the children? Because that's what we do. I can hire a house cleaner, she'll come and clean my house. If I want someone to help me with my kids, I'll hire a nanny. She'll come and help take care of my kids. They're not doing that there because they would have to pay them. So instead, they are bringing you Africans and enslaving you guys. They can round all of you up and you will all be put into a hall and you will all be standing there looking at each other. If you are lucky, 1 or 2 of you may have managed to get a phone. That's how I know that this has happened, because I've seen the footage, I've had it sent to me myself. And you don't know what's coming. You don't have your passport because they've taken it from you. You have no identification documents because they've taken it from you. You can't run. You'll run where? If they catch you, they will put you in prison. The parliamentary laws in the Middle Eastern countries allow for this stuff to happen. It is in their parliamentary laws. It's called kafala. They are allowed to enslave you. They are allowed to treat you like this. They are allowed to not pay you. That is why when you call your embassy, they will tell you nothing illegal is taking place. We can't do anything for you unless you escape and come to the embassy. And as I just said, you have no hope, even if you get into your embassy, of speaking to somebody from your own country, let alone your continent. So nobody is coming to help you. That our governments need to step in. I was so happy when I heard that the Kenyan government had stopped allowing the process of these visas, only to hear that now they're setting up legal agents and you go and do your course. I said 350 to 400 women are graduating from these courses every month. 2.5 million domestic slaves across the Gulf already, and all of them are out of Africa. If you get to Asia, you will be sex trafficked, you will be forced into that sex trade. And if you don't do it, they will kill you. You will be told, you owe us. You owe us. We paid for this. We paid for this visa. We paid for that visa. We know your family. If you don't do this, we will kill you. We will kill your family. You are put into a situation where you have no hope and there is no getting out, because the money they tell you that you owe, you will never pay it back. Even if you go and do this thing, they prostitute you on the street. That money that you earn, they take 80 to 90% of it. They will give you some pennies so that maybe you can get a drink and a bowl of rice. In Saudi, in Lebanon, in Lebanon, they have taken one Nigerian woman. They've taken her passport and they have advertised her. Buy, swap, sell on Facebook. Facebook intervened and took that down, but the government didn't do anything about it. We are talking literally selling a human being on buy, swap, sell. If you read the description, it was saying like they were selling their dog. It's clean. It's well behaved. It's well trained. Hear me, it, not she, it. So when you travel to these places, you are not a human being to them. If you go to YouTube and see how many videos you can find of the Islamic sheikhs giving their address and talking about black Muslims, not just an African, not just a black man or woman, but even a Muslim, so a person who is practicing the same faith, devoted even, and they have likened you to being less than a dog, because they believe that the only true Muslim is an Arab. Anybody that is of colour who thinks that they are Muslim, you are to be. The words were, they are to be treated as dogs. So, and this is a sheikh. This is somebody who is supposed to lead and inspire. And that is what they are preaching to the people there. It is about time that the governments do something. We need to do something. It needs to be united. All of the African nations, all of those governments need to come together and make Africa for Africans, so that our people don't feel the need to risk their lives. We are talking about husbands that will now have no wives, mothers and fathers. We are talking one per day in all of these, minimum of one African domestic slave worker dies in the Middle East, in each of those countries, not just one across the whole Middle East, one in every country is murdered every single day at the hands of their boss, at the hands of their owner. I said they will round you all up and put you in a hall. It's like a slave market. The men will come in and choose which one they want. Your owners will take you and allow a man to come and pick you for the night so that he can have a party favour for his friends. You will be handed around like a drink. You will be handed around like a dirty rag for each of those men to go and mess with you. And then you will be sent back to go and cook and clean and take care of their children. And if you're lucky, maybe your owner won't rape you tonight too. When your brothers and sisters come home and they are telling you about these atrocities that are happening to them, I'm pleading with you to believe them. Believe them. This is not about they don't want you to go there so that you can become rich. Look at them. Do they look like they're rich? Those of you, and I'm sorry, this is probably not going to sound very nice, but those of you that go and you know the atrocities that everybody else is facing and you come home and act like you have something, shame on you. Shame on those people, because you know what is happening to your brothers and sisters in the Middle East. If you think somebody there is your friend, even if they are suffering the same fate you are suffering, the level of suffering, you can hand your dollars to your best friend thinking that'll stop your owner from stealing your wages back. They're suffering the same thing you're suffering. The first chance they get to get on a plane, if they can get their passport back, they will take it. They will take it. We here who sit in social media, we call for unity. We are all calling for unity. This is the time for not only the governments to come and do something to save the African people, save the African continent, save African countries, build the economy so that our people your people don't have to go and become a modern day slave. We are calling on the governments to do that. But we in social media who sit here and talk our big talk also have the onus of responsibility to unite and be a voice for those men and women who are suffering in the Middle East. Too many of us are sitting here insulting each other. This is time for all of that stuff has to stop. We can't be united if we are fighting each other, if we are insulting each other. We who are calling for unity, and you are insulting this one because he's a Christian. You're insulting him because he's Muslim. You're insulting them because they're religious. Stop. Stop it. Stop it now. Put it aside. It's a fight for another day. At the end of the day, somebody else's belief is none of your business anyway. As far as we are all fighting amongst ourselves and insulting, you scroll through Facebook and that's all you see. This one insulted me, that one insulted me. Same like a bunch of little children all pointing the finger and insulting each other. Come together and fight for something that's real. Come together and be a voice for those people who are suffering. We're talking about real suffering. We all sit there on social media posting pictures of slavery and the slave masks and all of these horrible atrocities. What about the ones that are happening now? And you're insulting this one because of Christianity and this one because of Muslim. Maybe he's the one that will help you too. Now is the time to put that stuff aside and unite so that Africa can be one. Because that's what's going to save them. That's what's going to save you. Do you want to go home and your people are gone? Sitting in social media fighting like little children. Whilst your brother and sister are considering getting on a plane and becoming a modern day slave and being raped and abused and beaten and spat on and starved and shoved in a closet, and you're insulting him because he's Christian. Grow up. Unite and fight for real causes. Fight and get France out of Africa. Fight and get China out of Africa. Fight and get your people home. Let's lobby the governments. Bring our people home. Yes. Make jobs for the people so they don't have to go and suffer and be a slave in the Middle East where they think of you as dogs. Now is the time for all this petty. We've done it. We've talked and talked and talked and talked. Now is the time to do it. Action speaks louder than words. Put your money where your mouth is. Pull your finger out of your ass and do something. It's one thing to sit and call for unity and then you'll make another video insulting somebody for his belief. It's enough. And it's about time we all come together and we all put our differences. And I can't sit here and say I didn't ever make a video about Christianity and Islam and religion. I have. Absolutely I have. Because I also have my belief that the people who look like me bring that stuff there to divide you and conquer you. And it's working. You're still fighting each other about who believes what, which is why I stopped making those videos. Because at the end of the day, your belief is none of my business. What is my business and what is your business is the suffering of your people in 2020 being forced into modern day slavery in the Middle East. That's your business. Holding the government to account is your business. It's our business. It's everybody's business. Because if they're held to account and they are forced to do their bloody jobs, somebody should sit down every single African leader and force them to read their constitution. Force them. And if they, and you two read it, because you will find you two have the legal right to overthrow any prime minister or president that is not following the laws of that constitution. Your people are dying and suffering every single day just to put food on the table in the Middle East. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to go outside and suffer the fate of your ancestors. They've already suffered enough. They did it for you already, forcefully. And now you guys are willingly traveling because there is nothing there for you at home. And that's the belief that you have. So for those of you considering going, I will plead you not to go. I know it's hard, but there has to be a better way. We need to lobby. We all need to come together and force the governments to stop allowing the citizens to travel to these places. We need to get those that are there home. We need economy. We need jobs. We need something so that our people do not have to suffer this anymore. As a mother, I sit here and I plead all of my brothers and sisters who I love so very much to not go to the Middle East. There is something for you in home. There has to be. If we all pull together, we can make it happen. We can make it happen. Nobody should have to travel to a country where you are thought of as a dog or less than a dog simply because of the colour of your skin. We are talking 400 per month. 2.5 million across the Gulf are enslaved today. If we don't do something to stop this now, it will grow and it will grow and it will grow. So I will plead with all of you, please. 2020, it has to stop. I don't want to see this in 2021. If it was your sister travelling, how would you feel? My sister-in-law travelled. Nobody knew where she was. Every single day, fear and worry and fear and worry because we didn't know if she was dead or alive. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's about time. It is about time we come together and stop the atrocities. Come together and unite Africa. Thank you all again. I know you will be sitting there and I get it all the time. You, this white woman, who are you to tell our women not to travel? I will tell you. Because those who go and come, you don't listen to them. So maybe you will listen to some crazy, sweaty woman sitting here screaming at her camera. Because you're damn sure not listening to your own people. So I've said it, and I'll say it, and I will keep saying it. And I've said that before, and I'll keep saying that too. Until something happens, until change happens, until somebody does something, somebody steps up, some government steps up to make Africa what it deserves to be. We don't need to suffer anymore. Let's make a stand. Thank you. I appreciate everybody who has commented. Again, I've turned the comments off because I just had to talk. I just had to give this message out, particularly today on Mother's Day. It's a day where we need to cherish each and every single one of us. Not just the mothers, because all of us came from a woman. Okay? And those single fathers who are doing it alone, more power to you. So please, let's all come together and be safe and be united. Let's get Africa to where it needs to be, so that those people who think you are dogs will be begging you to come to your continent and will beg you for work, as it should be. So stay safe and once again, stay blessed. And please share. Please, let's just, even if you don't share the video, share it by word of mouth. Get the message out there, please. One love.